Ever wonder why whenever you record a video on a camera, even your phone camera, has better frames than your actual eyes? Like, I feel like my eyes are going 30 frames per second while everything else is going 60 or 120. I feel like I need a change of eyes. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. It's another video. I've been sick for like a whole week now, and that's why I've not been posting recently, because I am too tired to make any videos. I have an actual kind of script of what I want to talk about, and the albums I listened to for this year. It's starting off for the next, what's gonna come in the summer, who knows. And yeah, let's get right to it. So I first listened to Lil Wayne's new album, Funeral. I thought it was way too, like everyone else is saying, it's way too long, way too bloated. It started off really good. The first few songs stood out really well, while everything else was just, average at best. He can still create some fun flows and has songs for everyone. It has this idea of just him killing his own what was once joyful and like a foolish persona. The more he talks about that kind of idea, the more it loses its direction, because just the amount of filler tracks there are in this album. He overuses autotune in very generic songs, which makes it even worse. Like Get Out of My Head, that shit's god awful. Yeah, there's really nothing to say other than there's more bad stuff than good. I feel like this should have been more of a mixtape than an actual album. If you were to arrange it a little bit, it would have been a bit better conceptually. I feel like no one has ever talked about that 20-second hold on Bing James. Actually, no. That could be a philosophical, message to his fans. How the 20 seconds that passed, he could be still losing his persona, and he's still, losing his career or something like that. I don't know. Next up, we have Ryan Beatty, Dreaming of David. I've never really listened to a Ryan Beatty album. I've only heard of him from Brockhampton features. I think this album portrays what Ryan Beatty is. He has this kind of he's able to consistently bring this mellow kind of sound in every track in each album, which is really good for background music. Like I said before, I haven't really listened to a Ryan Beatty album. I've only listened to the features of Brockhampton, but coming from that, I feel like he's becoming a little bit more experimental with his performances, and like using the voice modulations like pitches. Standout tracks are Hawkshaw and Flowers at the Door, but I think the reason why it's only so little, because I feel like some of the tracks felt like it was, sonically it was missing some of the improv keys and the pianos, or just like the oomph in the drum basses and the drum beats. I can't say it's minimalistic in this production, but it's more, I hate using this term, but it's like more one-dimensional. But I don't mean it that way, but it's just I can't really think of a term that describes his use of production in most of his songs. I still think Ryan goes on his way to create the story on an album, which I feel like all artists should do in an album. Although the post-breakup album is very typical today to every like love story. Ryan uses darker topics to strengthen the post-breakup kind of idea. How he like thinking of his significant other overnight, hence why he has Dark Circles, which is also one of the songs in the track list, and how he's questioning if his significant other is using God as a way to stay away from him, as in Genesis. Overall, I think this is a good album. If you really like how he performs in Bleach or Sugar and one of those Brockhampton songs, I feel like this would be a really good start for knowing more of him and his discography. Now, moving that indie album out of the way, we got Denzel Curry Kenny Beats with Unlocked. Conceptually, there's nothing really going on here. It's just a bunch of fun tracks with him and Kenny, with Denzel and Kenny just having fun. And the fact that this was made in under a day surprises me for how crisp and, just energetic this whole album is. It's still, 20 minutes about? Probably less. and Denzel Curry is still able to bring out his usual persona, his usual ego of just this fast, conscious rapper while also, giving out the references. You can see very clear inspirations from Czarface or even Mad Villainy from if you were talking about the cover art or the first track where Kenny uses the talking sample, and even still he uses very psychedelic 90s samples. Going back to Denzel, his ability to make any of his lyrics, just no matter how corny it sounds, he can just make it as killer as possible. Despite how cheesy or like nerdy they are, Denzel Curry has the ability to bring that energy that he had in like Imperial or like what's that called? Nostalgic 64. This album stands out not only because of how fun each track is, but it just shows that not only Denzel but also Kenny has the versatility of changing their sound in any way possible. From you got Denzel with Taboo, Summer Banging Zoo, and now we got the boom bap, old 90s Czarface, his nerdy kind of Wu-Tang style unlocked. And I'm also glad that Kenny is going out of his comfort zone and from making just these trap beats to more of the boom bap kind of style, which I really appreciate. This album shows listeners that Denzel and Kenny have this kind of raw energy duo that they can do pretty much anything they want, and they can have as much fun as they can, and it shows in this album too. I also really appreciate for how this album was released, how it seems like someone found a leak of the song and then posted it on Reddit, and this was also how it was promoted in Twitter, how like Denzel and Kenny in the beginning are like arguing how someone found out their album and then they have to get it back and then they go in the computer. It's just something so fun about it that not many artists are doing today, and I really appreciate that Denzel and Kenny are doing this kind of thing and like taking it back. Next up, it's not a rap album, surprise surprise. It's Tame Impala's The Slow Rush. Currents is the only album I listen to, and considering that it's been 5 years or 4 or 5 years since he released Currents, it's more rich in his production. He enhanced his synths a lot, and he even though he uses some of the sounds from Currents and using it in here, I think he's enhancing it much more in a much more condensed and polished kind of sound. It's much richer in dynamic direction sonically, but I feel like some of the songs they drag out most of the time, making it seem like a more complex house track than a just the actual Tame Impala song, because just they don't really reach a climax, making it just feel like this constant loop of just making it like a background music for like 5 or 6 minutes. The album thematically is Kevin celebrating his present time of he's much happier. He has his relationship with his wife now, and how he's just kind of looking back at all the past albums he created, what built him what he is today. What's the thing that's stopping him though is that besides being alone, struggling internally still, he calls it the slow rush of how time is affecting his relationship with his wife, and how he wants to stay longer with her, and he doesn't want this this happiness to end yet. It's a really interesting theme to look at, considering that he's been doing this for a decade now, and how he's pretty much looking back at his own his past work, and how he's appreciating how he is what he is today, But the problem with him being able to say this is the production, which I feel that is very watered in, and it's mostly difficult to understand what he's even saying. Overall, it's a very captivating album. Conceptually, I just think that the execution should have been a little bit stronger, considering that he hasn't made an album for like 5 years, so we would have expected something like some kind of change. Going on with the more of the non-hip-hop albums, we got Grimes with Miss Anthropocene. I've never listened to a Grimes album. I just know her because she's Elon Musk's girlfriend or wife. I don't know if they're married. Yeah, but considering that she is dating or married to Elon Musk, you would expect that the production would be high tier, and it of course is. And she uses it when she successfully uses it as like a in a dark atmosphere. You got the very dark and edgy keys and strings, and to the very upbeat drum sounds that creates this futuristic cyber-like kind of track, like in like 4 a.m. and Violence, and even Dark Side, which I really don't like. I don't really like Pan's feature in it, which is, and I quote, "It's like Harrow Memory, but bad." What makes Miss Anthropocene more mixed and not good for me is like Kevin's album with it's good ideas and bad execution, but with this album it's just the other way around. Even though you can clearly hear what she's saying with this very high tier and crisp production, there's really no ideas in this album. It's just Grimes being this dark and edgy kind of caricature that, I mean, for me, first listen, I was very confused. The ideas are very broad, and they're not even, if anything, they're not even mentioned or executed as well. And most songs just eventually drag out because her lack of lyrical content, it just makes me want to have more of what, like, I want to know more of what she's thinking. This whole kind of polarizing, dark and stellar atmosphere creates a very cinematic and kind of video game-ish kind of vibe to the album, but just all in all, I just feel like the whole album is overall disjointed, and it just feels like Grimes is just adding these songs in with just no context at all. She just puts them in just to have her fans listen to new songs. Like, all the songs should be, like, in my opinion, I feel like they should be just standout tracks rather than all of them being in a whole album, because if you're gonna make an album, you might as well just do it consistently, which Grime does not do here. It's very polarizing sonically, which is a good thing, but it's only good if you deliver it in the right way. If you're changing from the intro track in Dark Side to Idoru and Delete Forever, it doesn't really deliver this kind of polarizing effect that she wanted her album to be. Even if anything, if she even did in the first place. Overall, I just feel this is very decent. It's a decent album. She could have worked on the album on the lyrical content more in a much interesting and even just hell of a topic, at least. Like, she could have just presented anything and it would have been so much better. The last album I want to shout out is Kill Bill and Rabs and Square's album, Skin, their collaboration album. I've always been a big fan of Kill Bill and Rab. I've never really listened to Square. I've only heard of him from like as features from Kill Bill and Rab's albums. Like in New Moon and Solar Flare, I think that Kill Bill, Rab, and Square they're complementing each other so nicely with these lo-fi beats and even beats that could be off of Kill Bill's resin. Yet again, I certify this album as music to relax/study to, but I do kind of wish that Kill Bill and Rab would create some kind of concept album rather to expand their sound more rather than just doing the same thing. But can't really complain if it's just good, you know? If you're gonna keep doing it, you might as well do it right, which they've been consistently doing ever since New Moon. I think that's it for February recap. I know I haven't listened to all the albums that I wanted to, and you know, this isn't my job. I'm not Fantano. So I think that's it. Hopefully, I'm thinking of like some skits to upload, but I haven't really recorded or even like written a script of it, but we'll see, who knows, you know. I hope I can upload more than just podcasts. So yeah, bye bye.